The story of our lives. Are our stories really that different from each other? We certainly like to think so, for don't we all have our own unique story? We freely acknowledge different circumstances that greet us at birth, different events throughout our lives, different dreams, some broken, some fulfilled, various interests, values, pursuits, economic advantages or disadvantages, influences in our youth, breaks we received or didn't as we matured. But in each story, we are the central character. Hey, it's my story. It's my life. My story has a beginning and a middle and an end, and a lot of drama throughout. But wait, did I say the story has an end? If my story is going to end, that means I'm going to end too. That makes me a little uncomfortable. At least it carries some concern. I really don't know much prior to my story beginning. Like, how did I get here in the first place? Suddenly, I was the main character in my story. And I really don't know much about what will happen when my story ends. Will there be an epilogue? Or better yet, the sequel? Or is it just like turning out the light and it's dark and everything just vanishes? The curtain comes down and there's no cast party to go to. Show's over. There'll be none tomorrow. I want to borrow a metaphor from a Unitarian minister, Bill Huff, who retired recently. It's a metaphor about flying fish. It's going to wind its way through most of the sermon today. I think you will always remember it because it's easy. Metaphors are supposed to be easy, though the subject is not. Flying fish. It's a lot like our lives, from birth to death. The arching flight through the air. Just visualize that. The arching flight through the air, the flying fish. The fish's natural habitat is the ocean. It is, in fact, part and parcel of the ocean. But for some reason, it leaves its natural element and takes flight through the atmosphere, like an arc, and then plunges back into the sea. The metaphor. We humans leave the boundless deep and are propelled into this finite realm. Breaking the surface, we are born. We take flight. When we hold a newborn, we're apt to say, what a miracle. How did this come to be? How did he even get here? Somehow, this newborn broke the surface of the deep and is on its way up. We never really comprehend the source from which we came. I mean, let's call it the infinite ocean. Who cares? Who really cares? Because we're out there sucking air as we ascend on that arc going up. We're convinced that this is the world. And so we spend time developing an identity. It becomes all about me, my story. I exist in this atmosphere. Oh, existence tastes so sweet. I am no longer part of the deep, infinite ocean. Now I am set apart at last, set apart from everything else, so let me engage in who I am as distinct from who you are, because this is my arching flight, and I'm going to love it for myself. Now remember now, it's an arc. At some point on the descent, we see the ocean again. Oh, I don't want to go there. I'm having too much fun right here, breathing the air and being me. But regardless, I'm headed full steam back into that ocean. Sometimes I think I just can't bear it. I don't want my living story to end, ever. But wait, doesn't religion hold the promise of a happy ending? Life eternal. I like that. My story can continue after I hit that blue body of infinity, if I subscribe to a greater story that allows not only for my continued existence, but allows me to reconnect with all the people and family I have grown to love during my arching flight. Oh, that makes me feel less afraid of ending my visible journey. It fills me with security as I head down towards that unknown place, or that place I've forgotten about during my arching flight. So is there a religion that doesn't offer such security? Well, probably on paper it would be the church in which you're sitting in right now. We are defined historically as that rare religious institution that offers no happy ending or threatens no overheated alternative. We offer no blueprint of regulations that will bring us life everlasting. Now, we don't offer this on paper, but that doesn't necessarily stop Unitarians from designing a next life on their own. In our adult education course called Building Your Own Theology, the class on immortality rings wildly with very fanciful ideas about how we're going to keep on going. And why not? We may be Unitarians, but we're still humans. Even as rational folks, I should say even us rational folks, don't necessarily want the story to end. Virtually all of us, everywhere, share this glamour of living briefly out of the water, like the flying fish, and we share the dread of the journey's end. It's very difficult giving up the journey. It's hard to give up the story about me. Can't it somehow continue? Now, I've always had issues with heaven, trying to imagine what it would be like joining people who never had tolerance for each other in this world. And then they get to spend an eternity together. I mean, what will happen when a sheriff from Arizona, notorious for deporting undocumented workers, winds up playing the harp in heaven next to a Mexican? Will everything magically be forgotten? Do we carry our grudges with us into the next life, or is everyone up there like Mr. Rogers? What happens when the Pope is singing with a chorus of angels and most of them are gay? Or were gay in their former lives? Does one stop being gay in heaven? Or is everyone in heaven gay? I don't know. What happens when Rick Perry winds up living in a neighborhood filled with secular humanists? Or Sean Hannity sits at the banquet table with Rocky Anderson? Will there be convivial conversation at the Paradise Cafe when Sarah Palin sits down next to Tim DeChristopher? Will David Duke and Martin Luther King Jr. share a few good laughs in heaven over a breakfast of grits? Or do people only expect to find other people in heaven who carry similar prejudices from this world? Or is heaven somehow limited only to Mormons or to Baptists or to Catholics? Does heaven only accept like-minded people? Well, this question may well have been answered by a survey taken by the Southern Baptist Convention Home Mission Board, which determined that since 70% of Americans were not twice born, they'd all be going to hell. So I guess there's going to be a lot of room in heaven for Southern Baptists. I also wonder quite seriously about the extravagance as described in a Muslim heaven. A place, if you can imagine, is a place where every wish is fulfilled. And you are dressed, you get to heaven, you're dressed in this very costly apparel with inlays of gold, precious stones, and you take part in one lavish banquet after another after another. And if you die as a martyr during a holy war, you are rewarded with beautiful virgins. Would God really exploit women to this end? What happens to these women when they are no longer virgins? Will they feel shame and rejected by their families as ruined? But these pictures of the afterlife are all tied up with happy endings, an antidote to satisfy our inability to let go of this precious ride through the arc of life. We can't envision ourselves entirely out of the picture. And thus we turn to religion, which makes us an offer. If we play by their rules while flying this incredible ark, they'll make sure our story continues. No wonder then that William James said, "Religion is a monumental chapter in the history of human egotism."